Hi everyone, and welcome to our first official lesson on this channel. This first lesson is something that's extremely dear to my heart, and I don't believe we can fully go into the next steps until we have spoken about this particular topic. This topic normally pops up whenever I'm talking with somebody who's relatively new at teaching or new with children. It applies to adults too, by the way. But one of the biggest things that I have noticed is the lack of communication when it comes to what's expected during a classroom. In other words, what are the rules which children or your students have to abide by? I can't tell you how many times I've entered a classroom, I've entered a gym, I've had to help out with kids' class, and everyone's complaining because the children just aren't listening. They're not sitting correctly when it is time to watch the technique. They're not responding the way that they should. During lessons, they're either running amok, talking, or doing things that the instructor's deeming as being disrespectful and not listening. The first question I always ask is, well, what are the rules? Did you go over the rules with the children or the students before class started? And more often than not, the response I get is, well, no, they should just know how to behave. No, you're setting up your classroom for failure if you're running on the notion that any student, child, or adult is just going to magically understand what it is you want when it comes to behavior. So the first thing is to have a clear-cut communication on what you're expecting during the class. For one, when the technique is going on, sit crisscrossed, hands on your knees, make sure your eyes are facing forward, and don't talk while the teacher's talking. That way, we eliminate all of the unnecessary chatter, the lying down. But when you're not communicating that and a child or a student is not reacting the way you want, you cannot get mad at them. Children, students, we all flourish in boundaries. Boundaries create a safe space for us to learn effectively. So when we're not providing that to students, we're kind of taking out the safety net which is there. It also takes away responsibility from the students. So you can't really get upset when they're reacting a way you're not happy with if you haven't communicated clearly what your rules are. For example, whenever I used to teach, a few minutes before every day we started with just the clear-cut rules of the classroom. When the teacher is talking, listen. And it doesn't mean you have to raise your voice or get loud or have a very authoritarian manner in your class, but you need to put these rules forward. That way children understand when they've been broken, they're not completely unaware of what they've done that's wrong, because you can tell. You can tell when you've gone into a classroom and all of a sudden you have a student who's acted inappropriately. You tell them off and you can see the look on the face of utter confusion. So when we're talking about this, make sure you spend just a few minutes in the beginning of your class, especially in the beginning, to go over your expectations of how your students need to react. One of my favorites is, as I said before, while the teacher is talking and we're going over techniques, lessons, grammar, whatever it is, all I'm asking is that while I'm talking, you listen. Very clear-cut, very simple. That way, when you have a child who's constantly disrupting your class, they're not unaware as to what's going on, and you're allowing them time to understand what the rule is. Hey, Ben. Just using that as an example. What's our first rule? Oh, I'm sorry, teacher. The first rule is when you're talking, I need to listen. Do you think you're doing that right now? No, I'm sorry. Okay. Please, when I'm talking, just listen so we can get through the techniques. The other one is maybe, especially in a jiu-jitsu class, actually any class, let's not run. We're dealing with tables, other children, hard surfaces. We could run, fall, hurt ourselves, and explain at the same time that this isn't to take joy out of a lesson. It's really just that we understand that there are risks involved and that there could be someone getting hurt at the end of the day. When we have very clear-cut communication on why we're doing something, why these rules exist, you'll find that children and students are more likely to take them seriously, as opposed to just the, well, teacher, why can't I run? I said so. Because I said so. I think that's the most infuriating line that anybody has ever said. Because I said so. That doesn't answer any questions. We need to remember that once we create a safe space for children, learning is going to happen. They're going to be more prepared for the real world. You can't expect them whenever they're in a meeting to just stand up and run amok. Unfortunately, that's not how it's done. But when we're setting clear expectations, clear boundaries, clear rules, we're going to have a better behaved class. So instead of feeling like you don't want to put down the rules because you don't want to take the joy out of class, just remember that in that same sentence, you can't be angry or frustrated when students are going against you. Because if you've never set a clear expectation or a clear boundary, did they really break any rules? Not really. By setting the standard, it creates a better learning environment. It makes you want to pull your hair out less. And it also gives the children or the students a sense of responsibility in their class. So I encourage everybody who's new to teaching, new to coaching, and just not really sure on how to get that behavior that they want in the classroom. Start the first few minutes having your rules. Don't talk while the teacher's talking. Please don't run. Let's respect each other. That's a huge one. Let's respect each other. If I behave a certain way to somebody else and I don't like it, I have to take responsibility for that. So clear-cut communications, you'll be able to see your children will do better, you'll do better in your classrooms, and it will create just a much better environment. You can also get the children or your students involved in the rule making. What's a really important rule for you? Sometimes they can be a little crazy and don't do handstands. Fine, don't do handstands. And let's discuss why these rules are important. So that's my challenge for you all this week, is if you're already struggling with behavior in your class, pay attention to how you're starting it, pay attention to what your expectations are, and have you communicated them clearly. Excuse me there. I'm trying to make this as natural as possible. Let us start with creating fun environments, good boundaries for student and for teacher. Okay? Have a great day. Bye.